I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike and I'm 35. I was with my wife Lisa for about 7 years. We got married 2 years ago and everything seemed fine, or at least, it did until recently. At first, I noticed little things. She started being more distant, coming home late from work more often, and there was this weird attitude she had whenever I tried to bring up us spending more time together. She'd brush me off with some bitchy comment about how I was jealous or insecure. I shrugged it off, thought maybe she was just stressed with work or whatever. But then the signs started piling up. She was becoming more defensive when I asked about her phone or her laptop. She'd hide her screen quickly or change the subject. I caught her deleting messages once, which set off alarms. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I loved her. I really did. I kept telling myself maybe I was just overthinking things. But then came the business trip. Lisa went on a week-long trip to New York for some conference her company was hosting. I was supposed to go too, but I had to stay back because of a project at work. That's when I started noticing things. Little inconsistencies in her stories, texts that seemed too vague or quick to delete. It was just enough to gnaw at me. Then I decided to check her emails. I didn't plan to do anything serious, just a quick peek. But what I found knocked the wind out of me. Her inbox was flooded with messages from her boss, Daniel. At first I thought maybe it was just work stuff, but then I saw the tone of the emails. Flirty, suggestive, talking about how they'd have to catch up properly after her trip, and she'd miss the way he looked in his suit. That was where I stopped pretending it was just work. I saw enough. And then I found more. The hotel key card she left behind in her purse. I found her hotel receipts, the dates lining up perfectly with her messaging Daniel. She'd gone to bed early, but her phone lit up with texts all night. That's when I knew she was lying and I knew she was cheating. I was furious. Devastated, but I couldn't stop myself from reading more. I needed to know how deep this went. My stomach churned as I looked at all the evidence. The hotel room photo she sent him, the late-night messages about how she needed a break from her boring life, and her calling him daddy in one of the texts. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I saw it with my own eyes. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. This wasn't just a fling. This was more. She was planning to leave me, or at least that's how it felt. I don't think I slept that night, just pacing around the apartment trying to process what I'd found. The worst part, I think she knew I was onto her. When she finally got back and I confronted her, she acted like I was crazy. She threw a fit, called me paranoid, told me I was imagining things. She said she'd never cheat on me, that I was insecure. But her words, her tone, the way she looked at me, like I was some sort of obstacle she wanted to get rid of, that told me everything I needed to know. She lied through her teeth and I could see it. That's when I realized I couldn't trust her anymore. I felt betrayed, humiliated, angry. All those years, and this is what it came down to. I had no idea she was capable of this level of deceit. I kept thinking about the nights I'd come home late, the small arguments, the moments I'd brushed aside her bitchy comments, all of it now just a cover for something much darker. She's bitchy, she's manipulative, and she's a liar. I never thought my wife would cheat on me, especially not with her boss during a business trip, but she did, and I had the proof. After I found everything, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it all. I sat there in the living room, staring at the pile of her hotel receipts, the hotel key card, the screenshots of those damn emails. It was like a punch to the chest every time I looked at them. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind to her lies. For 7 years. I thought we had something real, something solid. Turns out it was just a facade she carefully maintained while secretly screwing her boss behind my back. I knew I had to confront her. There was no way I could keep pretending I didn't know. That night I waited until she was home and had a glass of wine in her hand, all flirty and dismissive as usual. I sat her down. I showed her the emails, the hotel receipts, the key card I found in her purse. I laid it all out on the table. Her face turned pale the moment I opened her laptop and started scrolling through her inbox. She looked at me, eyes wide, then snapped back with her usual bitchy attitude. "You're crazy, Mike," she snapped. You're just jealous. You always jump to conclusions. I don't know what you're talking about. I felt my blood boil. Don't lie to me, Lisa. I saw everything. The emails, the hotel key, your text. How long has this been going on? Is this why you've been so distant lately? She scoffed, rolling her eyes. God, you're so paranoid. You're imagining things. I was just being friendly. At work, that's all. You're always accusing me of cheating, and I swear I haven't done anything. I stared at her, feeling the rage bubble up. Come on, Lisa. Don't insult my intelligence. I saw the messages. The way you called him daddy, the late-night texts, the way you were planning to leave me behind. What the hell is going on? She looked angry now, her bitchy mask slipping just a little. You're psycho. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but I'm not leaving or cheating. You're just making stuff up. Maybe you're insecure because I'm better than you at my job. That hit me hard. Her words, her tone, it was like she was trying to turn everything around on me. She was calling me insecure, crazy, jealous, anything to deflect from the truth. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I felt betrayed on every level. How could I have been so naive? I'd trusted her, loved her, and she was out there fucking her boss, planning to ditch everything we had. I could see now she'd been bitchy, manipulative, and lying to my face from day one. When I didn't say anything, she got even more defensive. You don't have any proof, and even if you did, so what? People cheat sometimes. It's not the end of the world. Maybe I need a real man, someone who can satisfy me. That was the point. I snapped. I told her she could stuff her real man bullshit, that I was done. Done with the lies, the betrayal, the fake love. I told her she was a bitch, that I was sick of her manipulations, and that she could go with her boss if she wanted. I was so angry I almost couldn't see straight. That night I felt my heart shatter into a million pieces, but I also knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without payback. It was clear she had been planning her exit strategy. She was ready to leave, to run away with Daniel, and I was left standing there feeling like a complete idiot. I realized I'd been nothing more than a fool, believing in her love. Now I had the evidence, and I wasn't going to stay quiet. I decided then and there to get revenge, to make her regret. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment she thought she could get away with it. But I wasn't sure yet how I was going to do it. All I knew was I was done trusting her. And from that moment, everything was about to change. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that bitchy smirk she always wore when she was lying or manipulating. I kept revisiting everything. How she acted when she was on that trip, the little things I dismissed, the hints I ignored. Now, with all that evidence in my hands, I felt like I'd been blindfolded for years. The pain of betrayal was overwhelming, but at the same time, a fire burned inside me. I'd been played, used, and I was damn sure I wasn't going down without a fight. I knew I had to plan my move carefully. I couldn't just blow up everything right then and there. I wanted her to see that I knew that I was in control of the situation, not her. So I started setting up my revenge. It wasn't about petty revenge. I wanted her to feel the sting of her lies, to understand what she lost. I needed her to pay for what she did. First, I hacked into her email and social media accounts. I needed to know if she'd been doing this to other guys, if Daniel was just the tip of the iceberg. It didn't take long. I found more messages from other men, flirtatious, suggestive. She'd been lying for a long time, not just to me but to herself. I found out she had a pattern, playing the innocent, bitchy wife in front of me, while secretly screwing around behind my back. Then I contacted her boss, Daniel. I didn't email him directly. Instead, I hired a private investigator to gather some real dirt. I wanted proof, genuine proof, that they'd been intimate, that she'd been lying about everything. I told the pie to dig deep, to find out if this was just a one-time thing or if she'd been cheating on me for months. I wanted her to see what her own lies had caused. Meanwhile, I started gathering evidence of her other infidelities, taking screenshots of her messages, saving photos, recording her phone calls when she didn't know I was listening. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't some naive fool. I was smart, I was patient, and I was determined to make her regret everything. One night I left her a message on her phone, just a simple voice recording. I told her I knew about everything, about her affair with Daniel, her other side pieces, her lies. I told her I was done, that she was a bitch for thinking she could cheat and get away with it. I said I was planning to expose her, and I wanted her to know she'd lost everything that mattered to her. The message was cold, calculated, and it left her trembling when I showed it to her the next day. Her reaction was priceless. She went into full-blown denial, calling me crazy, saying I was stalking her. She told me I was ruining her reputation, that I was just jealous because she was more successful than me. But I didn't care. I knew the truth, and I was ready to take the next step. I had everything I needed. Her lies, her secrets, her plans to leave. And now I was going to make sure she paid for every single one of them. Honestly, I felt a strange mix of relief and rage. Relief because I finally had the proof, the ammunition to fight back. Rage because she betrayed everything we built, everything I thought was real. I kept thinking about all those nights we spent together, all the plans for our future, and how she'd just thrown it all away for some cheap thrill with a man who didn't even care about her. I swore to myself I would make her regret it. Somehow. I didn't know exactly what that looked like yet, but I knew I was going to drop a bomb on her that she wouldn't see coming. She was still living in her little bubble, bitching and lying, thinking she could manipulate her way out of this. But I was done playing nice. She'd pushed me to my breaking point, and I wasn't going to stop until she knew she'd lost. I was preparing myself for the final act, whatever that might be. The day I finally decided to execute my plan, I felt like I was walking a tightrope. My heart was pounding, but my mind was clear. I needed her to see that I knew everything, that she couldn't lie her way out of it anymore. I wanted her to understand how thoroughly I'd uncovered her betrayal and how badly she was about to regret it. First, I sent her an anonymous email, one I crafted to sound casual but pointed. I included some of the screenshots I'd taken, proof of her affair, the hotel receipts, her secret messages. I made sure she saw that I had everything. I finished that email by saying I was done playing nice, that I'd expose her if she kept lying. I didn't send it from my email, of course. I wanted her to feel exposed and vulnerable, not knowing who was behind it. I made it obvious that I knew her secret, and I was prepared to ruin her if necessary. Next, I planted a bug in her phone. Not complicated or obvious, just enough to listen in on her conversations when she thought she was alone. I knew she'd start to panic when she realized I was watching her every move. I also set up a hidden camera in the living room, just to record her reactions when she found out I was watching her. This was about more than just revenge. I wanted to see her face when she realized she'd been caught red-handed. I wanted to see her crumble. Meanwhile, I contacted her boss, Daniel. I handed over all the evidence I'd accumulated, screenshots, recordings, everything. I told him I was aware of their affair and that I was planning to go public if he didn't end things immediately. I didn't threaten. I simply made it clear that I had all the proof and I wasn't going to let this slide. That day, I watched his number on my phone, waiting for him to call back. When he finally did, I could hear the tension in his voice. He told me he'd end things with Lisa, that he hadn't realized how serious I was and that he'd be cutting her off. I told him I didn't want her anymore, that she was a manipulative, lying bitch and that she'd lost everything. That night she came home late, more agitated than usual. She'd been acting strange all day, more bitchy, more defensive. I kept my cool, pretending everything was normal, but inside I was waiting for her to crack. When she finally saw the email I left on her phone, her face went pale. She stared at the screen, her hands trembling. I could see the panic in her eyes. That's when her little lies started to crumble. She tried to deny everything. "This isn't true. Someone's framing me," she spat. But her voice was shaky, her eyes darting everywhere. I just sat there calm, watching her unravel. I told her I had all the proof, that I knew her secrets, and that she was a bitch for trying to lie her way out of it now. She yelled, called me crazy, said I was stalking her, but it was all hollow. The truth was out and she knew it. When she finally broke down and started crying, I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. I knew her plan to leave, to run away with Daniel and never look back, was falling apart. I saw her trying to manipulate me one last time, but it was pointless. I no longer cared about her excuses or her bitchy attitude. I had her cornered. That night she packed a bag and left in a rush, her face full of shame and anger. I watched her get into her car and drive away, feeling a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I realized I'd been living a lie for years, and I finally had the truth. The betrayal ran deeper than I thought, and now it was out in the open. I knew I'd never trust her again, but somehow I also felt a strange sense of liberation. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't even recognize. And that's when I started thinking about what I'd do next. Because I knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where I finally took control and made her pay for what she'd done. The days that followed her departure were the hardest I've ever experienced. It was like an endless ache in my chest, knowing she'd betrayed me so thoroughly. I kept replaying everything. Her bitchy smirk, her lies, those texts from Daniel, the hotel key in her purse. It was almost surreal seeing her walk out that door, knowing she was planning to start a new life with her boss, all while pretending she cared about me. But I also knew that I had done everything I could to gather evidence and expose her. Now, it was about what I do with that information. I didn't want to just let her go without consequences. That's not how I operate. Sure, I was angry, hurt, humiliated, every emotion you can think of. But beneath that, I decided I wanted her to feel what I felt. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't some fool who'd be played forever. I started making plans carefully, methodically. I contacted a lawyer to understand my options because I wasn't just going to walk away and let her think she'd won. I also reached out to my own contacts, an old friend who's a private investigator, some of my lawyer's contacts, to help me with what I was about to do. I needed to make sure everything was airtight. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, and most of all, truly sorry. I knew her bitchy attitude, her manipulations, her lies. They all had to come back to bite her with full force. I prepared a dossier of all the evidence I had collected. All her secret messages, the recordings from her phone, the photos, the hotel receipts, her secret emails. I made copies, organized everything neatly. I wanted her to see that I was serious. This wasn't just about breaking up. I wanted to ruin her reputation, make her regret ever crossing me. At the same time, I started leaking parts of what I knew to her friends and family anonymously. Not enough to ruin her completely, but enough so that she'd start feeling the pressure. A little here, a little there. I wanted her to realize that her lies, her manipulations, her bitchy attitude weren't going to save her. I wanted her to understand that I was capable of destroying her if I chose to. One night I sent her a message, not from my number but from an anonymous account. I told her I knew everything about her affair, her plans to leave, her secrets. I told her that the only way she'd get out of this clean was to come back and face me, to admit everything, that I had the evidence to ruin her completely. It was a gamble, but I was hoping to make her realize that she couldn't keep hiding behind her bitchy attitude anymore. I also made sure I had a plan to get her to come back. I knew she'd try to run, to disappear, to start over somewhere else. But I wanted her to come to me first, to understand that I wasn't going to let her get away with all the lies she'd told. I planned to confront her face to face, to see her broken, to see her regret. And if that meant I had to let her feel like she was losing everything she cared about, then so be it. While I was doing all this, I also took care of myself. I started going to the gym more, focusing on my job, and reconnecting with friends I'd neglected during our marriage. I needed to rebuild myself because I realized I had lost a part of who I was during this whole ordeal. Betrayal does that, dulls your sense of self, makes you question everything. But I was determined not to let her win. I was going to come out of this stronger, smarter, and more in control. Looking back now, I can see that this whole experience has changed me. I don't trust easily anymore, but I also know what I'm capable of when pushed. I've learned that some women are bitchy, manipulative, and willing to lie just to get what they want. And I've learned that revenge is just about hurting someone else. It's about reclaiming your own dignity. I don't regret what I've done. If anything, I wish I'd realized sooner how much I was being played. But now I see everything clearly and I'm ready for whatever comes next. The day she finally came back was one I'd been waiting for, although I didn't realize it until I saw her standing there at the door, looking tired, defeated, and utterly broken. She tried to act tough, bitchy even, but I could see through it all. Her eyes were glassy, her posture submissive, like she knew she had lost control. I kept my distance, letting her stew in her own guilt before I finally spoke. "I've got everything I need," I told her coldly. "All your lies, all your secrets. You thought you could just walk away and start fresh, huh? Well, I made sure you won't be able to do that, not without facing what you've done." She tried to deny it again, to throw some bitchy remark my way, but it was useless. Her face crumpled as I laid out everything: the emails, the recordings, the evidence I had collected over those long, sleepless nights. Her usual snarky attitude was gone, replaced by tears and helplessness. "I was just tired," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I didn't mean for it to go this far, Daniel. It was just sex." "Sex?" I cut her off sharply. "You call it just sex after calling him daddy in your messages, after planning to leave your life behind to be with him. You lied, you manipulated, all while pretending to be the loving wife I married, and you expect me to just forgive and forget." She looked away, sniffling. Her bitchiness had vanished completely, replaced by guilt and regret. But I wasn't done. I stepped closer, staring her down. "You think you're the only one who's hurt here. You think your little lies just affect you. You're a manipulative, bitchy woman who thought she could get what she wanted: money, success, a better life, by screwing your boss and pretending nothing happened. Well, guess what? That game, over." I paused, feeling the weight of everything I'd uncovered. "You lost me. You lost our marriage, and I'm not going to be the fool anymore. I'm filing for divorce. I want you out of my life for good. Don't try to contact me again." She finally broke down completely, crying hard, begging me to forgive her, saying she loved me, that she was sorry, that she'd change. But I knew better now. Love isn't supposed to hurt like this. Trust isn't something you can just rebuild overnight after all this. I looked at her, feeling nothing but a cold emptiness inside. As she packed her things and left, I realized I'd learned a lot from this nightmare. I learned that some women are just manipulative, bitchy, and willing to lie through their teeth to get what they want, no matter how much it hurts others. I learned that revenge isn't about stooping to her level, but about reclaiming your dignity when someone else tries to destroy it. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, capable of rising above betrayal and heartbreak. Now, I'm rebuilding my life, piece by piece. I know I'll never forget what she did, but I also know I won't let her define me. I've moved on, and I've come out the other side knowing my worth. No more lies, no more betrayal. Just honesty, respect, and a future that I control. That's the lesson I'll carry with me always.